everybody, welcome to our first video of 2023. Before we get into the reason why you clicked on this video, let's address the elephant in the room. Why are we dressed like this, Kale?
We are going to a murder mystery party for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and it requires us to dress up as our characters, and my character as Jessica Eel. I'm a news reporter slash press person where I try to get the inside scoop by any means necessary. What about you?
I am a famous and successful movie producer. My name is Al Cappuccino.
Tonight is that murder mystery. It's New Year's Eve, and we thought it'd be fun to do this Q&A dressed as our characters. But now that that is out of the way, let's get into these questions. There were so many, and that's why this video kept getting pushed back, because we had to compile all the questions into categories, which you will find in chapters down below, so you can jump around to the area that you are most curious about. So you don't have to listen to this whole thing, because I'm pretty sure, even before filming it, that this is going to be a long video. What were my jobs before my soap business? I had a few jobs in the corporate world. I was a technical writer for a pharmaceutical company. I was a contracts specialist at Apple headquarters in Toronto. And I was also a technical writer for a software company. But before I went corporate, I worked a lot of different part-time jobs, one of them being at IKEA. I worked at the bistro. My very first job was at Swiss Chalet as the takeout person. I put chicken and sides into a takeout container and gave them to the people who ordered them. But I pursued art as a major, and they asked why I didn't pursue that as a career. And the reason is because there's not a lot of jobs that pay well around the art industry. But I did manage to use these skills for my other jobs and other endeavors, including this one as a soap business owner. Ooh, it's like hot under these lights. I'm gonna take off my jacket.
Ooh.
Are you getting warm?
Not yet, but I might in a little bit.
You guys asked a lot of personal questions, and I know that the majority of you are here for the soap business stuff, so if you want to hear about the personal stuff, including our relationship and questions about our family and all of that, that's at the very end. But we are going to jump right into the meat and potatoes, and that is questions about running a soap business. What was your best and worst investment in the business? My best investment has to be that bath bomb machine, hands down. It is not cheap if you look on their website. I don't know how much it is now, but here's a screen grab of what it currently is. But when I bought it, I think I spent around $2,000 for the machine, the mold, which was just the one mold. It was the medium round bath bomb mold, and one curing tray. And that came up to around $2,000, taxes included on that and shipping. And I remember this was one of my first really big purchases, so I had actually reached out to the owner of the company asking if there was any coupon code or anything I could use, and there wasn't at the time, so I paid full pop for all of these things. And the reason why that is one of my best investments is because I used to make bath bombs with just the two handheld aluminum molds. And that took a lot of time hand pressing molds. And I also didn't have a really great way of drying them, so that bath bomb curing tray solved those issues, and the bath bomb press solved the speed issue. I could produce a lot more bath bombs, and they were very uniform in shape. They looked a lot more professional too. A bad investment that I made was fragrance oils in a bulk size that I didn't really have a plan for. I don't recommend buying fragrance oils in a big bulk size until you have a product scented in that fragrance oil that sells consistently enough to justify such a big bulk size. As a result, I have a lot of fragrance oils in certain scents. It's taking us a really long time to get through it.
Yeah. Start off with 250 or 500 milliliters.
Yeah, and the expiry date of some of those fragrance oils are well into the future, but it still sucks storing them, especially when I have new things coming in. And when we're moving things around, there's that big tub of that fragrance oil that we are not able to get through fast enough. So I would say to that, plan your fragrance oils accordingly, and don't move up into a big size until you know that you like it and that you can sell the stuff that you are gonna be scenting that fragrance oil in. How did we go about expanding our product line from soap to bath bombs and candles, etc.? So I started off with a really small product line. I started off with soaps, and then I think the next thing I had was body butters and then lip balms. I think sugar scrubs as well. And we added more products to the line as people started to request them more. And so we researched those other products, and that's what we ended up offering once we got a good enough recipe that we were proud to sell to people. So that's one thing. And then the other thing was just plain curiosity. We wanted to make certain things. I think that's where candles came from. No one asked us for candles, but because I was curious about making a candle, that led to me making candles, and then me loving the candles that I made so much that I decided to offer them to my customers. Did you ever have a reaction to testing any of your own products? I never did, but Kale did.
One time you made a deodorant, and when I put it on, where you put deodorant on, it was really sensitive for me, and I had a bad reaction, and I had to go jump in the shower, and
Yeah.
I didn't react well to it.
No, he had to rinse it off as soon as possible because it felt like it was burning you. It was so interesting because I wore that deodorant and it was fine for me, and I think it had something to do with different body pH levels maybe, or I don't know, because that's the only product you've reacted that way to that
Right.
I've made. And that is when I stopped making deodorant. I think when it comes to homemade deodorant, it's so tricky. And you can see in people who are big fans of certain cottage country deodorants that they're very particular to a certain brand and a certain type because they're so reactionary to other things. It's not necessarily which brand makes the best deodorant, it's which one your body reacts the best to. Did you ever doubt that your product would break anyone out? And to kind of snowball from the last answer, yeah, deodorant. I always worried about people reacting to that, so I stopped. But another product that I worry about sometimes is lip balm. People, just like with armpits, lips are another sensitive part of your body. And so people can react weirdly to lip balm. We haven't had anyone react to our stuff that we know of. I mean, who's to say whether or not people have? But we've had people come up to us asking specifically about the lip balm, if there's any vitamin E in it, if there's coconut in it, because that kind of stuff makes them react. I'm leaning forward because if I lean back, it's like, it's bright. How do you deal with pet hair?
Good question. Good question. As you know, we have 3 pets.
2 dogs, 1 cat.
We have our whole studio on a completely different floor of the house that the pets never, ever go down.
But that being said, pet hair still does stick on our clothes sometimes. So at the end of the day, we're not a factory. We're not a sterile lab where everything is monitored. And I don't think people who purchase from small businesses expect that. All we can do is our best. We inspect each product before they're shipped out to the customer. We inspect each product before we display them in a farmer's market. And that's all you can do. If you keep trying to compare yourself to Dove or Lush, who, by the way, sells their products naked in an open store, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. So it's one of those things that I've learned as a small business owner to just let go of. Just do your best, inspect your products, and try to keep your animals as far away from the area that you make stuff as possible.
How did you separate work-home relaxation before having a dedicated soap studio? At one time, we were doing farmers markets Saturday and Sunday, which is the traditional weekend. So there was a time when we were forcing ourselves to take time off Thursday and Friday
Yeah.
to kind of have that kind of be our weekend.
We really had to force ourselves to take vacation time and time off. But even then, it was very hard mentally when our work area was our living area. And that's a big reason why we actually moved here. And I know there are a lot of questions as to why you moved to Calgary. That's one of the reasons, but we'll touch upon that when we get to that question. What do you do with soap fails? I don't do much with soap fails. If a soap doesn't work out, I want it out of my sight, so I dispose of it. When you run a business, most businesses have wastage, and that's something that you track. If you speak to your accountant, then they can advise you more on that. But that's what we do with our soap fails. I mean, we could recycle them, but I always end up just saving them and forgetting about them and never doing anything with them. Remember that time I dropped that big loaf of soap on the floor?
Yeah, I think I had gone to sleep early and you were up and I just hear ah!
Yeah, I dropped an entire loaf of liquid. It wasn't solidified yet or saponified yet. Soap on the floor all over the kitchen in our small house. It was sad.
Yep.
I was cleaning up soap for months after that. Is Quench Bear your main source of income, or do you have other businesses? Yes, we do. So Quench Bear is the business where we sell our soaps and our products out of our website and in person in our markets and in our events. To supplement our income, we have the YouTube here, and we also do our Patreon. And all of those streams of income help boost our revenue so that we're not relying on one particular income. And I would recommend that to you guys as well, whether it is starting a Patreon or starting a YouTube or working another job until your small soap business can sustain you guys. That's what I highly recommend. Never put all of your eggs into one basket. That's very, very risky. In fact, back in the fall, when the recession started to hit us a little bit, Kale actually took on a second job.
Yep, I went to go work for a few months in the fall when we weren't getting as much orders in. There was a little bit of economic uncertainty. I worked that for a few months, and then we were looking down kind of what the forecast was looking like, and it looked like December was going to be busy, so I'm back here.
And we're not embarrassed or ashamed to do that. Like, we'll do what we have to do, and that's the choice you make when you become self-employed, is to make sure that income is always coming in somehow, whether it's through your soaps, selling them, or through other means. Just always have a safety net. What's your worst business mistake you guys have made, and why was it so bad? It's when we did those markets when we were first starting out in January and February. Those were expensive mistakes on multiple levels. We barely sold anything, and we barely made the table fee back in those times. We had 3 big events. They were all fails. They were all busts. And the mistake being that we jumped into markets before really researching it, the individual markets that we signed up for, and also fully understanding whether or not our particular product was in demand at that time. And we found, at least in Midland or in Ontario, this Upper Simcoe area, that January, February, and March are not the best times for in-person soap sales. We would get sales through our websites here and there, but sales definitely slow down for this particular product around that time of year. So if you're tempted to do an event in January, February, or March, just assume that it's going to be much lower than, say, a Christmas event or even a summer event. How many hours a week do we devote to the business?
I always say that we should actually keep track, but
should.
I can easily say that it's somewhere between 50 and 60, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely not your 40-hour work week. It's way more than that.
Yeah. And it's little chunks throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's I'll get up early and work from 6:30 to 9, and then do things with the dogs or take them out, and then it will be another chunk in the middle of the day from 10 to 1:30, and then sometimes you go on into the middle of the night too as well.
Exactly. It's very irregular, and you're always working on the weekends, and you're always working even on vacation, especially if you're just a husband and wife team like us.
Yep.
You can fix that problem by hiring people, though, which we'll get to later in this Q&A. What made you change your business name in the past, and how did you come up with your most recent business name, Quench Bear? So we've changed our business name a few times. We were originally the Bassett Soapery, and the reason why we changed it was because after we had some business experience, we realized that the Bassett Soapery didn't really speak to the products we were selling and the theme, the whole brand image that we had. It just was not cohesive. We didn't have a plan. There was no intention behind that name. We just liked Bassett's a lot because of Dempsey, our Basset Hound. That is our daughter. So that was the reason for that change. And we changed it to Quench Inc. because I wanted a very short name, and I wanted it to be punchy, like Lush, or what's another single syllable business?
Dove.
Usually you want your business name to be short and punchy, between 1 and 2 syllables, 3 syllables max, not only because it's easy to remember, but also when you're putting that logo and that business name on your products, you need that real estate for other information, not just your business name. And the Bassett Soapery was so long. That name on a lip balm tube was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So we went from the Bassett Soapery to Quench Inc. Then we changed it to Quench Bear. And the reason is because we were in this house already. It was around spring of 2022 when we were thinking of legitimizing our brand and company by trademarking the name Quench. And so we spoke with a trademark lawyer, and we found out that the word quench was tied to various other Bath and Body businesses already. We weren't going to be able to trademark quench when it comes to a word associated with a Bath and Body product. So we decided to brainstorm a little bit on what to name our company. If you look up Quench in Google, we rank pretty high, so we wanted to keep the name Quench. And obviously our current customers know us as Quench, so we wanted to keep that word in our new name. But I also wanted an animal or something like a fruit, like an icon that I can associate with our company. And since we're in Alberta now, there's a lot of bears here. So we came up with Quench Bear. And I love bears, obviously. But what were some contenders before we decided?
Some honorable mentions were, this was the closest honorable mention was Quench Peach.
Yeah, Quench Peach. It doesn't really roll off your tongue.
Quench Melon.
I wish we had kept the notebook where we wrote down.
We might have it around somewhere, yeah. Yep.
Quench Melon was one.
Yeah.
Quench Lemon. There were so many funny ones that we were very close to choosing, but Quench Bear was the 2-syllable punchy name that rolled off our tongues and we liked the best between the two of us. So we presented that name to our trademark lawyer and he was like, great, that's a good brand name, let's do it. And he was able to file our trademarks in association to that name to Bath & Body Products for both Canada and the United States. And that's why we're Quench Bear today. So that section was general business questions. Moving forward, we're going to be answering questions that are more closely related to one another in categories. And this category is soap business questions, but the planning aspect of it. Do you guys have a business plan for next year? And do you break it down to monthly? And how do you structure it, writing it down on a large calendar, for example? I think we have a business plan for this year. We've talked about it in terms of how our YouTube and our social media is going to help funnel more sales to grow our business. Do we have it written down anywhere? No. We should. We should do a better job on that. And actually, one of the things that I plan on doing in January is to have a small business glow up where I do those things, because I should be doing those things. Because if we would just say them, they're just plans out in the air. They're not like real plans. Maybe get a big calendar and we can put our goals every month on it and maybe have like a monthly meeting, those kinds of things. I want to do better in 2023.
There was a time when we used to have daily meetings and talk about what we're going to do, but we don't anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe we will again.
Maybe we will again, yeah. Do you and Kale make yearly business goals? It relates to that question that was asked before. Yes and no. They're more vague. They're definitely not structured and definitely not things that we touch back on as the year progresses. But I know that I made some in the beginning of the year. I think I made a YouTube video about how I expected 2023 to go. And I don't know if I stuck to that. I should rewatch it. That's gonna be another video. And once we do make our yearly business goals, we'll tell you guys that in another video.
How do you track inventory?
We use CraftyBase, and I have a link to that down below. And it's a very, very robust system. If you are serious about keeping track of your inventory, using a system that connects to different points of sales like Shopify, Etsy, and I think it even connects to Square, then I highly recommend CraftyBase. It is expensive. It is a big business investment, but I highly recommend if you're starting out to do that, because it'll just get more complicated the more you're in business and the more your sales grow and your products grow.
Where do you look to see latest trends or get inspiration?
I mostly look to YouTube. I look outside of the soap business niche to see what other people are doing, because you'll be surprised at how many trends you can relate back to soap. Another place is YouTube Shorts. There's this one creator. She made a soap that had glow-in-the-dark elements to it, and that was because Avatar 2 is coming out, and that has a bioluminescence water theme. And stuff like that, if you make it and make a video on making it and then post it to YouTube, that stuff has the potential to go viral. So if that's your goal, then I would definitely pay attention to movies that are coming out, to what TikTok trends are happening in the moment, and also what YouTube is recommending to you in terms of shorts. I always pay attention to shorts because that's usually where the masses go.
I would second that. I would say I've been watching more YouTube lately as I've been more of a participant in the Vlogmas. So I look at videos and I kind of keep an eye out on what not to do.
Oh, what not to do. Interesting. What do you wish to accomplish business-wise next year? I think for me, I definitely want to hit 100,000 subscribers. We are getting close to it, but that's one of my goals. And another big goal of mine is to be able to establish some sort of structure in my business where I'm not always falling behind inventory-wise, and on the website, I don't take care of that or pay as close attention as I should be. So website maintenance, being able to stay on top of it. Oh, and another business achievement that I want to do is to start hiring people. And I think this was something that we mentioned in our last Q&A, that we want to start hiring people. We never did, and our business has suffered because of it in all aspects. There's definitely a person that you can hire for every task in your business that you find annoying, like social media, like in terms of YouTube, someone editing
videos.
Yeah, editing the videos. I can hire someone to do that. And as your business grows and you're feeling these pain points, definitely hire someone. Don't wait as long as I am.
A goal that I have would be refining my accounting skills. I have been doing that for the business for the past few years, but there's things that I can do to improve at that.
Where do you see yourselves business-wise in 3 years? So that's 2027? No, 2026. In 3 years, I hope to have a property that has an outbuilding where I can really scale the business. So not just making stuff out of my home, but also being able to have a facility where I can manufacture soap and have a building that staff can go to help me make that soap, and also maybe have that building be a studio where I can film my videos, all of that. I definitely want that in 3 years. And that's what we're working towards, is being able to afford a property like that. This next section is going to be interesting for a lot of you guys because I know a lot of you are starting out and have no idea how to start out in your soap businesses. So let's go. Other than best products to start with, any advice on the first things to solidify right at the outset? I definitely recommend figuring out your business name. When you are starting a business, you got to treat it like a business. So whatever your business name is going to be, that's going to drive a lot of your business decisions. And you don't want to put in the work of making all those decisions on a name that someone else already has. So not only should you decide on your business name, but also figure out whether or not someone already has that name in your industry and if they're already using it, because you don't want to run into the trademark issues that we ran into, because we had been Quench for like 3 years before we decided, let's trademark this. Do I recommend trademarking your name right away? It's a huge investment. For us, we spent a lot of money trademarking it. Another thing you want to figure out right away are all of the licenses you'll need to acquire and whether or not you need to register your business, because it will differ province to province, state to state, country to country. And almost every area will have some online resource you can refer to figure all of that stuff out. You definitely don't want to be in business for X number of time only to realize that you weren't doing something properly and then you get in trouble for it. So make sure that you're following the rules and regulations of whatever area you live in. Another way to figure that stuff out is by joining a group related to your area. So I'm a part of Canadian soap business owner groups on Facebook, and that has been such a valuable resource in helping me figure out what I needed to do to be able to sell my products. And another thing I think you should do right from the get-go is to create an Instagram page for your business, to buy the URL for that business name, and to also just claim that handle on as many platforms as possible.
How long did it take you to decide to get business insurance? And we got this pretty soon after we started making sales regularly online.
Insurance is not required, at least for in Canada, but it sure is handy. So I recommend everybody to get insured once you make the decision to sell to people. You never know what can happen, so it's always best to have that safety net through insurance. So it's pretty early on. Do you advise any particular legality? Sole proprietor, LLC, INC, and why?
This could also depend on what country or what state, what province jurisdiction you're in. I can tell you for us, we started as a sole proprietorship and then went to an incorporation.
Yeah, sole proprietor is a great start. Once you start making regular sales and you decide a soap business is for you, then you can start thinking about getting incorporated. And it depends on the path that you choose to get incorporated. You can hire a lawyer or do it yourself, but there's a wealth of information online for that path. And we think once you make regular sales, it's something that you should do. It definitely legitimizes yourself as a business, and it also protects you in certain areas of business, I think. At least that's what our lawyer told us when we decided to incorporate.
And as far as LLC, I think that is something that might be thought about further down the road when it becomes when there becomes more dollars involved.
And if you want to get more information on this kind of stuff, you should definitely speak to a lawyer.
Yep.
I don't think we are providing enough information here to help you guys decide, because that's what we decided to do. We spoke with a lawyer before moving forward with the incorporation. And sometimes you have to pay a fee to speak to a lawyer, but I think it's worth it in the end to help you decide whether or not it's the path for you. What is the best education for being a good soap maker and business owner? Okay, so this question is a loaded one. I think the best education is whatever. It's so subjective.
Yeah.
It's hard to answer this.
There, you need to, there's different skills across the board that are all good to have, and to say, is one better than another?
It's so hard.
That's so hard, yeah.
I will say that you don't need any of that to become a good soap maker. It all depends on how tenacious you are in terms of learning and how well you are at self-learning. Because if you are motivated to do this all on your own, all of that information is online for free. You don't need any particular certificate to sell, at least in Canada. You don't need to be certified to legally sell your products or to film yourself on YouTube. As long as you are spouting good knowledge and you're confident in that knowledge, then there really isn't a formal education that you need to do that. That being said, if you're not good at self-learning and if you want to bolster your skill set, I definitely recommend going out there and finding a course. I think there's one that Marie Rema from Humblebee and Me, she promotes one that she went through a whole certification process to get certified. It really depends on the person, whether you're a school person and you benefit from being in a classroom with peers and having a teacher that you pay for, then that's the path for you. But for me, I didn't do any of that stuff. I'm a technical writer by trade, and that was my skill set in my corporate jobs, was finding information on my own and disseminating it so that I can be able to speak to people who aren't in the field so that they're able to understand it better. And having that certification doesn't hurt. It's always good to add some hats or some feathers to your hat if you can. This hat's coming off soon.
Is that my tie?
Yeah, it's your tie. It says the press on it. What advice would you give someone that really wants to start out but also has very limited funds and is scared because if their shop doesn't really perform, they will be in a pinch for a while? Oh,
Tough question.
that's a tough question.
Tough question, yes. We would recommend that if it's do or die, if meaning starting off slow or is not going to perform well, to just hold off and wait till you're in a position to where you can have a little bit more time and a little bit more cushion before success could come.
We never advise people to put their last dollar into a soap business, and I've had messages from people saying, I'm desperate and I really want my soap business to start. Should I quit my job? The answer is no, I don't recommend it, because my growth has been so slow, and it's been through the cushion of my 9-to-5 that I was able to grow it to the point where I could quit my 9-to-5. And that took years. So if you're in a pinch or if you're low on funds, start it as a hobby and approach it as a hobby, and then grow slowly. Never get into debt to be in a soap business. I don't recommend it. It's, first of all, it's very competitive. There's a lot of people wanting to do the same thing that you're doing. A lot of the things that lead to success takes time to learn. And if it's the only thing that you're relying on in terms of income, that can really put you in a tough spot. Being a soap business owner is super, super stressful already, and you don't want that factor of not having any money added to that stress, because that's horrible. So my advice, if you are low on funds, maybe just hunker down a little bit, save your money, and just do it smart. Don't throw money into a business venture that you're not sure is going to succeed. How long did you work your business before going full time? I started my business in 2017 and I quit in 2020. I quit my full-time job in 2020, so that's about 3 years of doing both before I decided to quit.
Yep. And the hustle was on during those years. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was super stressful doing that. But that's what I recommend to people. It's not a glamorous answer, but yeah, 3 years. When starting your business, what was your process in obtaining your email address, domain, and website development? So when I started my business, I decided on the Bassett Soapery. So I went to Shopify and bought the domain through Shopify. And then I went to Instagram and I grabbed the Bassett Soapery, and then through Gmail. Did we have the Bassett Soapery at gmail.com? Did we ever?
Yeah, we did.
We did, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we created our business emails through Gmail. It's free and quick and easy. So that's what I recommend when you're starting out, is just go through Gmail to get that business email. You definitely want to separate your business email from your other types of emails.
Yep.
How did you purchase large equipment and supplies? Did you get a business loan or charge card?
When we were first starting off, we used our own personal funds for our business.
We've never had a business loan. So everything that we bought on a credit card. We eventually got a business credit card,
Yep.
but we paid it off right away every month. We've never been in debt for this business, which could explain why we were so slow to grow, but Like I mentioned before, I was not willing to risk my family thinking that my business was going to succeed. I definitely wanted to see real results before I made big purchases. That's the point you should be making that decision, is when you are drowning in orders and you need a solution to help those orders go out the door faster, or a solution to make products faster because the demand is so high. That's when you should be investing in that big equipment. You shouldn't buy all that stuff right away and just hope that the orders will come. I never recommend that at all.
How much space do you suggest for having to store your products and supplies?
That will depend on business to business. Some businesses are super big and they need a warehouse to store their stuff, or other businesses, they store their soaps in a closet and that's plenty for them. It's whatever you need to be able to stock your website so that you're not running out of stuff all the time. It depends on how big your business is, really. Like when we were in Midland, we stored our stuff in the basement, and it was a tiny basement and it got too small. So we moved to a bigger house.
Yep.
And you'll know when it starts to be too small. Right now, our basement studio is a great space. We don't need much more than that given our current order volume, but it's something that you'll get a feel for as the orders come in.
How do you be determined to get going instead of being temporarily motivated?
I've always been very, very driven. And I remember years ago wanting to be a business owner, and that's after being in corporate jobs for years and hating it. I knew that there was a way to do it because I used to listen to podcasts all the time about how to make money on your own. So that motivated me from years ago. And I decided to pick a hobby that I really liked. And in the beginning, it was photography. That didn't work out. And then soap making, loved that. Friends love my soap. Okay, let's lean into that. My inspirations, I had a few of them. Adiane Arsenault, Katie Carson. I would watch them on YouTube and see their businesses. That inspired me. And I knew where it could go. So I knew I wasn't there yet, but I could see if I just applied myself and kept trying, I would get there someday. That's what motivates me. And I know it's really, really tough in the beginning when you don't see those real-time results, but trust me, it's brick by brick. It's not gonna be success right away. For some people, yes, but most of us, it's literally baby steps at a time. Once you accept that, it gets a lot easier.
Where and what do you say is the first step, and how many products would you suggest starting out with?
The first step is definitely deciding that you want to start a business, and then thinking about what you can offer that's different from everybody else, because that's the start of a business. You can't just think, I'm going to sell soap. That's not going to work. You have to really look at what you can offer that no one else can offer. And once you have that, then you have your selling point. And that's what's going to be able to drive your social media and everything else that you're going to use to market your products, is that one selling point. And I actually didn't get to my unique selling point until I think it was like 3 years into me wanting to start a soap business. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to think of one right away, because that could even change over time, like it did for me. And how many products would you suggest starting out with? Honestly, when you're just starting out, 1 to 2 products, like just soap maybe, or just bath bombs. Not too many at all. As you start to put yourself out there, and you start to fall in love with the whole process of making things, and you start to build a customer base and they start requesting stuff, that should guide you in the direction that your business goes. You'll get a better sense of it the more you're in business, I think. What steps did you take to start your soap business, and how did you market yourself? The steps that I took was look to see who had my business name, and I acquired that business name on social media and my website URL. And then I registered that business name with my province. I was in Ontario at the time. And every business name that I've changed to, I always registered it with my province. And I also obtained a sole proprietorship for that business name. And how did I market myself? When I first started my business, I didn't know how to market myself, and I was very poor at it. I just posted pictures on social media with no target customer in mind, just using a really nice camera to make pretty pictures of soap. That is kind of a strategy, but that's not really a strategy at all. I would not recommend doing that. I would think of your unique selling point. Even if that unique selling point is you as a person and using your personality to sell your products, that's a strategy. It's a way better strategy than the Bassett Soapery. But once you think of a business name and your unique selling point, then that's going to drive everything else. So after the Bassett Soapery and I moved to Quench, I got in contact with someone on Facebook, and he wanted me to create a soap with hemp seed oil in it. And once we made that hemp seed oil soap, we decided to build our entire business around that ingredient. And that's a strategy too. If you have a very particular ingredient that you're known for and you are very excited about this ingredient because it helps your skin, blah, 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 that's a great way to market your soaps. And that's what we've been doing for the past, I think, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that contact is still our wholesaler to this day. How do you know when to start actually selling your product? What were your steps, or how did you know to take the next step? A big light bulb in my head was when I told my friends that I did this and they wanted to try my stuff. And then once they tried my stuff, they loved my stuff. So that's a big indicator that you could probably do this as a business, is if there's any interest at all in your circle of friends and family. So once you start making soap and you test it out and you love it, and then maybe you give it to your spouse and he loves it, and then you give it to your sister and then she loves it, that's a huge sign that you should try to do it on a bigger scale outside of your friends and family. Especially when your friends and family offer to pay you for those soaps. That's another big sign as well. Another big sign is if you are doing this as a hobby and you really love it and you're posting it on social media and people are asking you where to buy this stuff, that's another big sign. You don't have to start off selling soaps right away. It could be a side gig that you become super passionate about and you're very excited to tell people about through social media or through your friends and family. And that's actually the way that I recommend you guys do it, is just get really, really excited about it without any stakes, without any pressure to sell and to make a profit. That type of person who's so excited about what they're doing that they don't care if they make money from it, that's the type of person people actually want to buy from all the time. I hear stories like that they just love it for the sake of wanting to share their passion with people.
What inspired you to start making products?
I was working at Apple headquarters, and it was apparently my dream job. It was when I first started it. But the longer I was in that environment, the more stress I experienced, and I started to really, really hate it to the point where it was affecting me physically. And I was with you on our balcony one day, and in our small apartment on Weston, and I noticed a small line of bumps that followed my vein on my arm. And those bumps, it looked like little pimples on my arm, and they turned into giant welts, and it spread throughout my whole body, and they looked very similar. I don't know if it's picking up on camera. Sorry, my hat's getting away. And it ended up being psoriasis, and that was my first experience with a skin condition, and it was all because of stress, and also my diet was pretty bad too. And because of that, I wanted to learn how to make my own skincare products, and I found out on YouTube through Soap Queen's channel, Katie Carson's channel, Ariane Arsenault, that it was possible to be able to create your own soaps and skincare. And from there was a rabbit hole that I've never been able to dig myself out of to this day. And that's what inspired me, my own health issues.
What are some do's and don'ts when setting up your business?
Let's start with the do's. Do make sure that you're the only business with that business name.
Do make sure that it's something that you love to do, and then you
Yes.
aren't just looking to make a quick buck from it.
Yes, that is so important because of how stressful this whole thing is. If you don't love it, it's gonna make you want to quit, because you don't make money from this thing for a while, a long, long time. And whatever you decide to do right from the get-go, you could decide to change it all of it, in a year or so, because what you've decided to do isn't working out and is not making you any money, which is my experience. So if you don't love it, if you're not good with criticism, and if you're not good with seeing zero profit or negative profit, I don't recommend doing this. So yeah, do have a passion and love for soap making, and your customers pick up on that. Your social media followers pick up on whether or not you're doing this just to make money or if you actually do love this. Another do is to legitimize yourself as a business by registering or getting a license or getting whatever things you need to do to make sure you have a good foundation. Another do is to test your products. Make sure that the stuff that you're selling is actually good stuff that you like, because you're your best advocate. Some don'ts.
Don't go into debt when starting out.
I don't recommend getting a business loan to start off your business hitting the ground running. Don't do that. Don't add too many products to your product line right away. That's gonna stress you out also.
don't add too many scents to your product line right away as well.
Yeah, related to that, don't invest in bulk supplies until you actually are running out of your supplies constantly and you need like a whole bunch. Like, don't buy bulk until you're confident you can get through it before it expires. Oh, a huge don't that I don't think anyone thinks about is don't waste your time comparing yourself to other people.
Good one.
That will waste so much time. To this day, I fall into pits of despair comparing myself to people. And that's not going to do you any good because there's nothing you can do to control that aspect. Which I guess leads to another don't. Don't worry about things you can't control. The recession is something that we can't control. So it's not something that we worry about too much. We plan for it. We make decisions knowing that that's the environment that we're entering into. Be smart about it. Yeah, panic less and plan more.
I can see that on a banner.
On a t-shirt maybe?
Is making a soap business or any other company hard for a child to do? Yes or no question? I would say yes.
It depends on the kind of business you want to run.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to run a good business that's profitable, I don't think a child has the skill set for that unless their parent is helping them out. I think at the very least, a child will need an adult's help to navigate certain things. A child can certainly start a YouTube channel about them trying to do melt and pour soaps and take off that way, or they can start a Instagram where they talk about how much they love making soap and take off. There's always ways that a child can do what I do, but there's certain nitty-gritty things that an adult will need to step in and help them out with down the line.
Yeah, I think a child can have skills, or a child can love to do the things that it takes, but it does. I think overall it's an adult thing that in running a business.
It's a grown-up thing. What is your process for label making? What do you outsource versus DIY? I use Photoshop for my labels. I use Canva for my labels. I use Adobe Illustrator for my labels. And I do it all in-house. We don't outsource anything.
Yep.
That's something that we should think about.
That might lead back to a question for 2023, is we might start doing that in 2023.
Yeah. You can certainly send your designs to a printing company that's local and they will print it out for you. I know a lot of people do that. If you do it that way, like 50 cents a label, maybe even cheaper than that. If you buy in enough bulk, you can really get that price point down. So that's something that we need to think about doing moving forward because it takes time.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was all of our starting out questions. Let's get into some products and pricing questions.
Okay.
There's so many oil butter combinations you can use to make a bar of soap. How did you decide on your final recipe? So when it comes to hemp seed oil, I touched on that earlier. A supplier of hemp seed oil reached out to us asking us whether or not we could make a soap using hemp seed oil in it. And that was my first experience actually with hemp seed oil. And we loved it. We loved the soap that we made from that. But the actual recipe, I think I was watching Soap Queen TV and I tried one of her soap recipes. From there, I tweaked stuff, played with it on soapcalc.com to see the properties and researched what kinds of properties I wanted in my soap and also tested the soaps that I made. And from that, I built my core recipe. I remember I played around with those numbers a lot to get the numbers where I wanted them to be in SoapCalc. And that's what I recommend you guys do too.
Do you remember how many variations you had before you have the one you currently do?
Many.
Yep.
Tons. And the cool thing about SoapCalc is that you can save all of those recipes and you can write little notes in them, which is what I do. I always go to SoapCalc no matter what. When I tried my different, like my honey soap, I tried something different, and I tried formulating a coconut oil-free soap. I just played around. Sometimes it can take a while.
And then even then, it's still ongoing because of the addition of citric acid, which you recently put in.
Yeah. And there's so many things you can do even more to make a soap a really good bar of soap. So citric acid is one of those additives. Honey, I mentioned that. But sugar, which is something I want to try in 2023. Stearic acid is a big one that I get requested all the time. Try citric acid. Or
Stearic acid.
Try stearic acid. Wax, beeswax I want to try. I want to try salt. The world is your oyster.
Yep. What is your least selling product?
Clay masks, I think.
It's clay masks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why do we still offer clay masks? They sell consistently enough that we're just keeping them
Yeah,
on?
they sell enough that they're on there.
Yeah.
I also enjoy the process of making them. I actually made
Yeah.
some rose masks earlier today, and
Yeah.
I really love mixing in the different types of clay together. It's
Yeah.
very satisfying on the eyes, making sure it's all mixed in.
Yeah, and it's very quick to make too. And that's another decision when you're thinking about products is how quickly something takes for you to make it. Sorry if that sounded grammatically weird. But yeah, clay masks have stayed on our line because whenever someone orders one, it's so quick to just whip up a clay mask and bottle it and sell it. Another thing on our line that we have because it's so easy to make is got hair floating around is serum. And I love our serum. That's why we keep it. Same with our face moisturizer. I love our face moisturizer. That's why we keep that. But the clay mask is our least selling product.
What's your best-selling product?
Oh, hands down, our Georgian Bay soap.
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
it's a favorite. People love that soap.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good soap.
Soap,
I'm-
and then
yeah.
bath bombs close second.
Yeah, which bath bomb is our best selling bath bomb? Would you say?
French lavender.
Our French lavender bath bomb. People love that bath bomb so much. And it's funny because it's the one bath bomb that looks and smells like bath bombs you can find in any other company. But because we have it in ours, people like to put it into their baskets and they check out with it. And we've been selling it for 5 years and it's going to be there for another 5 years, I think, too.
What weight is recommended for the first-time butch for, I think it's batch, for a small business?
So when I first started out, I got those 2-pound silicone molds, and I think that's the perfect size to start out. That makes about 8 bars. And when I first started out, selling 8 bars of soap was so hard. Getting rid of those soaps was tough because I was pawning them off to my friends and family. I started an Etsy page that didn't go anywhere for a long time. And those soaps stuck around for a long time. So get a 2-pound silicone loaf mold to start because those 8 bars doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're starting out, it's so many. Dempsey. Someone was calling Jiggy the photobomb queen, but Dempsey photobombs a bunch too.
How to make your soap different from the rest?
There are so many things you can do to soap that will make your soap stand out. If you use fruit purees, that makes your soap stand out. If you decide to do a certain design, that helps your soap stand out. And you can do this through melt and pour, through cold process soap, literally anything. As long as you don't actually take the time to copy somebody else, you can make unique soaps. Like literally the options are endless. Goat's milk soap, coconut milk soap, hemp seed oil soaps. I feel like that character in Forrest Gump, and he talks about shrimp.
Oh, yep. All the
Yeah.
different ways to eat shrimp.
He listed so many different types of shrimp, and in the movie, it took him several days to go through all the different types. I feel like that's the same with soap. You can literally do so many different kinds of soap. Narrow it down to one specific thing, and that will be your unique selling point.
How to price the soap?
So in the beginning is different from when you're already established. In the beginning, you want to price your soap to what the market is currently selling it at. It's not exactly your COGS. And the reason is because if you're starting out, you're not buying in bulk yet. It's going to be really expensive to formulate your bar of soap. So your COGS are going to be super, super high. You're going to end up with a $20 bar of soap according to your COGS because it might cost you $4 to make that single bar. That's going to be a really tough way to get your business off the ground. So when starting out, take the loss and price your soap as high as you think it can get in the market. And that's by studying your peers, studying the other soap makers and soap businesses in your area. And then once you start to build that customer base, then you can start to buy ingredients in bulk to get your COGS down. And you can by buying a ton of lye, like a 20-pound bag of lye. That's stuff you don't want to be buying right from the get-go. So that's why it's hard to say. Once you start to get your business going, then you can start to do that whole COGS calculation where you multiply your cost of goods times 4 and then add on to that other expenses that you don't necessarily see all the time. And then I also see my current market as well because I don't want to undersell my peers. That's something that I think you guys should be cautious about too. Don't sell your soap so cheap that you're the cheapest guy out there. You might think that that's what's gonna sell your soap, but you'll be surprised. A lot of people think a certain kind of way about the cheapest soap out there.
What product is your personal favorite?
My face cream. because I love it
Yep.
so much.
Yep.
Like my skin is wonderful because of it.
I was gonna say that too. But
Really?
since you took that, I will say shampoo bars.
I love our shampoo bars, but I have another one too, which is, I know we have so many favorite products, but the lip balm that I make is so good.
That was gonna be my second place.
It's funny how it's not even soap. We love our soap too. Like we make so many good things, but those three I think are exceptional. And if you are curious about trying our stuff, yeah, buy the soap, but I also recommend the face cream, the lip balm, and the shampoo.
I have a Georgian Bay lip balm in my heavy coat. I have an orange creamsicle in my vest. I have a lemon lime in my other vest. I had a pina colada lip balm in my jean pocket earlier today.
Yeah. And I've compared my stuff to chapstick, and my lips get dry like after a few hours.
Yep.
I literally think my stuff is way better than
I
chapstick.
think it is too. I think it is too. Chapstick does work for me. There's other brands out there that that I feel like dry me out more, but ours is perfect and it stays on your lips.
Really good.
Yep.
You have to take a camera switch break and a snack break.
Do you plan on adding new products for the new year?
I think we want to try different products to see how they do. I want to add jelly soaps to my line.
As a regular? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
I think they're fun.
We do still get requests for shower steamers sometimes. So that would probably be the one that I think we get the most requests for that we don't actually put out there. But
What's the most fun product to make?
I enjoy making the facial masks.
For me, the most fun product to make is bath bombs. Yeah, they're so quick, and the colors, it's just very satisfying, especially when you make bath bombs using the bath bomb press. That machine makes bath bomb making so fun.
Yep.
I also really enjoy hand press molds too. It's very, very satisfying.
I think my honorable mention will be conditioner bars.
Oh.
It's really fun pouring the mixture into the molds, and then when that mica is in there, it just kind of sparkles, and it looks like you're going into like a time warp or something.
Yeah, it looks like a concoction.
Yeah, yep.
What is your favorite product you've ever made that you want to bring back?
Water orchid soap. I miss that soap.
That was Kale's
Yeah.
favorite soap. This is Water Orchid from Candora Soap Supplies, and it was one of the first fragrances that I bought. I bought like a big bottle of. It smells so good. My version of that answer is honey oat. I feel like every time we take it away, people are always begging me to bring it back. So that's something that I'm probably going to bring back in 2023 because it's just so popular. People love it.
Our
It's very
wholesalers
soothing.
just asked us if we could specially make that for him, and I think we will.
Just a very simple, classic soap scent that people love. So that was all of our products and pricing questions. This next segment is about customer relations. How do you respond with grace when someone suggests products that you should make? Actually, that's what led to us expanding our line to accommodate those people. But I think for the most part, when people are suggesting that you make something, it's always best to just take it in stride and just nod and say, yeah, that's a great suggestion. We'll look into it. I think when people are suggesting things, I don't think they mean any offense. I think they're just curious to see if you'll do it because they like you as a company and they want to try another product, but they want you to make it, which
Yeah.
is a compliment actually, if you think about it.
When I would get
Yeah.
these suggestions in person, a lot of times, and it was 100% the truth, but a lot of times we were just so busy already making bestsellers, good sellers for us, that I
Yeah.
would say, we'll put that on the list, look at
Yeah.
that in the future, but right now we're busy enough with how it is.
How do you handle that pressure to please everyone, knowing it's not possible, and respond without sounding snarky and feeling discouraged? It's hard. I am a huge people pleaser. I want to be able to make something for everybody, and I think my earlier attempts at running a soap business reflect that, and it ended up with me spinning my wheels and not getting very many sales. I think learning to niche down and eliminate things and be more focused is a muscle that you have to exercise. So start small, start to create your ideal target customer in mind. Anyone else that pops up in your sphere, just treat them as someone who you know isn't gonna be happy with your product. So it's best to keep that interaction as short as possible. Just a hello and goodbye, and if they suggest things, just nod and just send them on their way and say, "Hey, yeah, I'll look into that." It's best not to take it personally. At the end of the day, that's not the customer that you're targeting, and it's okay if they never interact with you ever again. I think another thing that you should do is to look at what other successful soap businesses are doing. For example, Dr. Squatch, they're very much making soap for men, and they are doing fantastically. It's really once you start to narrow who that customer is that you will see sales like literally go like this. So this next segment is about marketing and sales. What are some tips to increase sales during the slow months of January and March?
I mean, inevitably, yes, those are going to be the slow months. Putting less pressure on yourself to try and have the same sales as busier months would be step one.
I think a good way is to constantly be posting on social media. And I know that's not a popular answer because if you're anything like me, you hate it. I hate posting on social media, but you really want to stay in the minds of your customers during these off seasons because people still have birthdays during this time. There's still Valentine's Day. There's certain holidays like St. Patrick's Day. You can make soaps or bath bombs around, but just enter these months knowing they're going to be lean and just plan accordingly. Just consistently post to get through this season. I would not recommend vending at any events during this time if you're small. It's not going to end with good sales. I mean, at least from our experience. So just hunker down and weather the slow sale season. That's what a lot of companies do. We met some vendors at farmers markets that only sold during specific times of the year and then laid low for the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they knew that this was their time to make their money. They planned it, that it was enough to be able to live off of for the whole year. And that I think that's something that most business owners have to plan out when they're looking at their calendars. January, February, March, they're going to be slow, and it's going to ramp up as the year progresses. Do you think storytelling through a product can aid in making a business unique? Yeah, absolutely. I think storytelling is such an important aspect of being able to elicit some sort of emotional response in your customers. And that is what usually gets customers, is being able to get them to respond. I think for us, our storytelling when it comes to our YouTube videos really helps us increase our sales because we are able to connect our business with who we are as people and how our day-to-day life is. A lot of people connected with that, and we saw our sales really go up in December. Mm-hmm. But how you use storytelling is so different. There's so many different strategies, but a good social media post will have a storytelling element to it, which is what keeps people hooked and then also what converts those people into customers. It's hard to describe right now. I might do a video on that down the line.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on creating themed product launches for subscription, etc., in addition to standard inventory?
I like the idea, and I would totally do it if I had more resources. Because it's just Kayla and I have not been able to do that. But those times where I have, they went so well. People really responded to themed boxes and themed products. As long as you promote them and you're able to build a buzz around that, you should be able to sell those and sell a lot of those. Yeah, but again, it's like a muscle. Marketing is a muscle you gotta exercise. Yep. In January, you can do a New Year's product. In February, you can do like a love or Valentine themed product. In March, it could be luck stuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, every month you can build an exciting box. Most customers love a good themed box. Yep. And it's those types of products that do really well on social media too. Goal for 2023, themed monthly boxes. If you were starting over and had the opportunity to study communications and marketing, would you do it? Or do you feel life experiences has helped you learn enough?
Very good question.
Yeah, so I'll speak personally about myself. I wouldn't. I feel like when it comes to school, I'm more of a doer rather than a studier. So when it comes to communications and marketing, I'd rather put something out there and see real-time results than to study concepts from a teacher in a classroom. I've always been that way. I've never liked school. I've always just wanted to see how it was in real life. Other people might love that opportunity and would do that. But I think for my business, I've done just fine without that extra schooling, so I wouldn't do that if I had an opportunity to restart.
Yeah, I think the life experience that I've acquired is invaluable. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I did go to college and I have a degree in political science. And while there might be some small things that I use towards our business, I do wish I would have taken some accounting courses or maybe some economics classes. But those aren't an absolute, you need that to start the business. It just would have been good to have some of those foundations, some of those principles.
Yeah, so here's an example of two completely different approaches to that. It all depends on the person. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely possible to get to where I am without those credentials, but they won't hurt if you have them or if you want to pursue them. They could only help you down the line. How did the move to another province impact your sales? Good or not good? Would you do anything different moving again? I'm working on my business and it seems so hard to get sales on Facebook. Any ideas to help boost my sales? The move to another province impacted our sales in the sense that our Ontario customers that usually order from us either didn't or couldn't anymore because of how far away we were. So we definitely lost sales on that end. However, we acquired quite a few Alberta customers in the move. I think we're now at the point where we've made more this year than, not last year, but the Christmas before that. I think when it comes to moving, you have to plan accordingly and just know that your sales are going to take a hit, but keep working on building that local customer base and keep posting on social media, and it will... I think you can make a soap business wherever you move to. It's always best when you decide to move to look forward and not back. So in that sense, we did take a hit in sales, but it has come back up. So in 2020, when we were in Midland, we did more in-person events as well, and that led to more sales in that sense. But in 2022, we didn't do any, and I don't think we wanted to do any.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, our last one in person was in November, and we didn't really want to do any for the month of December.
Yeah.
Would you do anything different about moving again?
I would have done a better job at documenting it and vlogging it for you guys. Because it was such a huge move, I was so scatterbrained and under a lot of pressure and super stressed out, so I didn't do that. But I wish that I had shared with you guys more about that transition, and I had promised to, but I just didn't.
And quick. It all happened so quick.
It happened so quick. But I'm learning now that you can share with an audience, and because I forced myself to do it every day when I was doing Vlogmas, once you get into the practice of it, it's so much easier. So if we ever do something like that again, I would definitely be way more forthcoming with sharing about that move.
I am working on a business and it seems so hard to get sales on Facebook. Any ideas to help boost my sales?
So, okay, here's my opinion on Facebook. I feel like it's kind of a dying platform, and not as many soap customers are coming from Facebook as they once were. So I would instead focus on either TikTok or Instagram. And I know, because I hate those platforms too, but that's where a lot of soap buyers are right now. So I would try to transition to Instagram or TikTok. But if you want to stay on Facebook, I think a great way to boost sales is to insert more of yourself when you're advertising about your products. I think this touches back to the storytelling element. If you can make people feel something through a story that you're telling through the product that you're talking about, they'll feel that connection with you and they'll want to purchase from you more. So that's one big thing, is just to, you got to get in front of that camera and introduce yourself as the maker of these products.
Right, yeah. Who is the person behind the camera? Look, I remember when we were in person and you and I talking about when we would do videos at an event that we got to have a little bit of ourselves in there just to show us a little bit.
Yeah, people connect with the face. Any well-learned lessons in marketing? Having yourself, or as much as yourself in the business, at least in the soap industry, can only lead to more sales. I think people want to know who they're buying from, and they want to know the story behind the whole business journey. So sharing as much of yourself as possible when talking about your products or your business is a great way to create a buzz around everything. You'll see that a lot of the most successful soap businesses on Instagram or on TikTok have the creators in front of the camera, and they're showing themselves making their products. They're showing themselves talking about those products. They're on lives, making the products live and building a community. And that's a big reason why people convert to customers, is that they want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel like they're supporting something, and you want to give them a reason to do that, because there's just so much competition out there right now. Anyone can make a bar of soap, anybody, but it's that unique selling point that you're offering that makes people want to buy from you instead of somewhere else. When you're trying to make a social media post, try to make it personal and relatable. And you might think that creating beautiful photos and posting beautiful photos on your Instagram is a great way to market your products. It's not anymore. It used to be. And people aren't looking at those kinds of posts anymore when they're following business pages. They want to know what you're up to. They want to get a update on your life and things like that. Another well-learned lesson that I've had when it comes to marketing is to be hyper-focused on your target customer. And the more focused you are, the less distracted you are, the quicker you are to make some business decisions. And the quicker the sales will come because that target customer is being spoken to directly. So these next couple of questions are about branding. I'm curious to know more about your rebranding to Quench Bear and if there is a change in the business direction, for example, a new target audience. So we rebranded to Quench Bear because the name Quench, we couldn't trademark it. So we moved to Quench Bear. And when we made that move, a lot of people assumed we would be targeting children more. That wasn't our new target customer. We were still targeting the same people who loved Bath and Body soaps, same people who like hemp seed oil. I know the bear might make people think that it's for kids, but everything else about our brand, when you go to our website, when you look at our social media, that's where the bear imagery really ends. Like with our small bath bears, they're really cute, and I feel like a lot of people, a lot of grown-ups, they feel connected to something like that. So really it's the customer who's an adult, who likes cute things and also likes Bath and Body products. Cute, sparkly, colorful Bath and Body products. That's our target customer. And if they have children, then it can cross over to them as well. When I started watching You Were Quench, and recently you went to Quench Bear with a mascot. Have you experienced measurable increased sales since the change? I would say that our sales went down because mostly our move, but they came back up faster than when we started from scratch in Midland, Ontario. It took a long time to build a customer base in Midland, Ontario. Since we moved here, it took less than a year to get our sales back up to where they once were. So it's hard to say whether or not the move affected it to that extent. But I think people who supported us before have just continued to support us. And regionally, we're gaining new customers in the Alberta region more and more every day. They tend to be the same type of customer that we had in Ontario. So I think the switch to the bear has been good for us. So the next couple of questions are about supplies. Your favorite wholesale companies for your business. So I have a couple, and they're Canadian companies because I'm located in Canada, but I really like Fizz Fairy as a company. They have so many amazing bath bomb dyes, like literally every color in the rainbow. I have a link to them down below, and I also have a coupon code for them. And I also really love Windy Point Soap Supplies. They're actually located 10 minutes from my home, or I think 15 minutes from my home. So they are very, very close. And they also have some of the best prices that I've seen compared to other types of companies, like companies across Canada. And I also really like New Directions Aromatics because they offer really big bulk on certain things that you can't get anywhere else. I can't get big bulk on essential oils anywhere else. They're the go-to for me when it comes to essential oils. And they're also the go-to for me when it comes to lip balm tubes. No other company sells lip balm tubes that cheap.
Uline, when it comes to
Uline.
packaging supplies and containers.
Boxes.
Yep, and then even Staples as well when it comes to boxes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Staples has been a surprise resource that we go to a lot for certain things. Their prices are great, and it's free shipping over a certain amount, and it's like a low amount. It's like $40.
It's next day too.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't have to have as much in storage that way if it's there the next day.
Yeah.
So just in time. Yeah.
Your favorite supply vendors and why? We listed Staples, Windy Point Soap Supplies, Fizz Fairy, New Directions Aromatics, and Uline. And that is all listed down below. Printer recommendations when using Canva. So when it comes to a printer and business, I think investing in a laser printer is definitely a must. We had an inkjet for a while, and the labels we were printing from that inkjet were not good. It was just low quality and not weatherproof, not waterproof. But laser labels, the laser labels we get from online labels, they're amazing. They make our products look so good. But the printers that we use for that is an HP LaserJet Pro. The model we have is actually, they don't make it anymore. They're always updating printers. So I would suggest the latest model of the current HP LaserJet Pro.
We have the 1080. Yeah. Who knows what they're at right now. Yeah.
And we got ours in Costco.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Costco's a good place for buying those expensive types of machines
Yeah.
because you can return it if it's not to your liking.
Yeah, yep. And I guess that kind of goes back to the previous question about favorite wholesale companies. We do go to Costco for some things too as well. We forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, Costco.
Yep.
Do you ever have problems with shrink wrap? I'm in the UK and it's super hard to find biolefen. Not quite ready for the cost of sourcing the system from the US. I sometimes have the wrap split when I'm shrinking it because of the trapped air. Do we use perforated film? And is there an optimum gauge? So do you have any problems with shrink wrap? Kale does most of the shrink wrapping these days.
Sometimes it does split.
Yeah.
It's not consistent. When it does, I will just rewrap it again. If that's the case, I will keep the heat source an inch or two further away than what I normally did. Yeah, if it's consistent, there might be an issue with not the wrap itself, but the actual heat wand. There might be a little piece of dirt or something in a certain spot that's not making it seal at that crease.
For the most part, it's pretty good. It's pretty reliable.
Yeah.
And we do use a perforated film, and that's so that we can smell the bath bomb through the film. And our gauge that we use is 60.
I believe it's 60. I was
Yeah.
I was like, I'd have to look and confirm, but I believe it's 60. Yep.
Do you have a trick for shrink wrapping it so that you're not splitting as much? When I was doing the shrink wrapping, I would leave like plenty of space around the object I'm trying to shrink wrap. If you try to get too close, you might be able to create a seal, but when you're shrinking it, the sides are just going to split because it's not enough shrink wrap to actually cover the bath bomb or the soap you're trying to wrap. So try to give it some space. Even if it's like too much, at least you can shrink wrap it down so that's like a shrink wrap mass on the side that you can press down.
And I would also say just slow down, take a breath, do it thoroughly. There are times when you fall in the trap of trying to become really efficient and but then you're kind of getting the heat gun a little bit too close and that can make it burst.
Yeah, the heat from the heat gun. Just try to keep a good distance, like go close and then far away. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Different things.
It takes practice to get the handling right.
Moving it around in your hand very quickly. I was so bad at it when you first when you first showed me how to do it.
It gets better with practice for sure.
Yeah.
Where do we buy our biodegradable shrink wrap? And is it biolefen? We get it from the National Shrink Wrap Company, which is linked down in my description box. And it is the biolefen.
Yep.
We like the biolefen because it biodegrades faster than plastic does. No, plastic doesn't biodegrade, does it?
No.
Ever? So it biodegrades. I think over the course of 5 years, I think is there what they say it does.
Yep.
If there's a more eco-friendly option, that's what we usually go with. And we recommend it.
Yep.
The next question is about web pages, online sales. Does your web page offer alt text? Apparently a company can be sued if description of photos are also not in alt text. So I've heard about this actually. Did you hear about this?
No.
There was a blind man who has been suing small businesses because they're not putting alt text in their pictures. So what alt text does is describe the photo in words so that a blind person can still have access to those products. Yeah. So we currently don't have alt text. I don't know if that's making us vulnerable to a lawsuit, but that's something that we should work on in 2023.
Yeah.
What that is if you upload images to an online platform, there is usually a space for alt text where you describe what the photo is. And this is something that blind people can use so that they're able to purchase through your website even if they can't see it. I recommend that if you're able to do it, you should do it because accessibility is something that we all need to be aware of, especially in 2023. And that's a goal for us in 2023 is to make our products be as accessible as possible to people with all sorts of abilities. Was it difficult to set up your website for your business? No. Shopify makes it so easy. So easy. All I had to do was create a Shopify account and then pick from one of their many templates. And their free templates are really good. They're really, really good. And they make website creation just so easy for me, I am kind of techie, but if I wasn't, it's very beginner and user-friendly, I would say. I now go through a paid template and I think the upgrade is worth it. It's like $100, $100+ depending on the design that you choose. I think it's worth it because it makes your page a little nicer than what everyone else is using. If you pick any one of their free templates, you have a great website right from the beginning. So I recommend that. I have a link to that also down below. The next couple of questions are about shipping, which is Kale's forte.
What's your best recommendation for getting the correct postage on your products? My small business is different from yours, but my stamp machine doesn't really seem worth the expense these days. Yeah, this is something that we do need to look at the prices of and update in 2023 is our costs of shipping. Those have gone up 20, 30, sometimes 40%. So what we've done is we just have looked at the average cost it is per shipping for Canada and then for the US, and then we take that average amount, and that's what all shipping is. There might be other ways that we could go about doing this to where we could have higher shipping on bigger order or smaller shipping on smaller orders. That's what we've done for the sake of simplicity.
What makes your life easier to get products out the door? For me, I think it's having another person helping you out. That's a huge thing that makes my life easier. If I didn't have Kale, I think it would be such a mental and physical exertion to do everything. So if you are finding it difficult to ship products out, get some help. Get a friend or hire somebody or recruit your spouse or someone, because it's hard. I think shipping in and of itself is a slow process, but it's one of those things that you can definitely outsource. It's not a difficult task, just putting stuff into a box and wrapping it up. It's an easily trainable skill. We got our neighbor to help us out one season, remember? And she helped with packaging and getting stuff out the door. Yeah, you can definitely even train like a teenager to do that kind of stuff. So that's what I recommend. Get help. Is it exhausting lifting boxes to the mailbox every day?
No. I look at it as a workout. I look at it as a way to stay healthy. I look at packing the car and everything up as cardio, and it's just kind of, it's kind of how I look at it. I guess it's my perspective. I think it's
exercise.
Yeah, I don't always get the chance to go for a run or lift weights, but I view the chance of putting heavy things away as a little bit of a workout.
Yeah, I think at our current volume, it's not exhausting, but if we were to get even more orders, we might think about having the boxes picked up from our house or getting some sort of courier service. But as it is right now, it's manageable. Yeah.
Now, when I go back to the headspace of when we were doing 4 markets a week, my body was pretty tired at the time, but you're kind of going on adrenaline at that point.
And speaking of markets, the next couple of questions are about farmers markets.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
How did you know when to do your first market? So I knew once I started the business that I wanted to do farmers markets because I felt that getting our products in front of some real eyes was going to be the best way to get products moving, and it was. So when we started the Bassett Soapery, we were in Toronto, or like a little north of Toronto, and there weren't very many markets that a beginner could get into. There's a lot of really big ones that were expensive that I wasn't willing to tackle just yet, and I don't think I would have been accepted anyways. But once we moved to a smaller town in Midland, that's when I was on the hunt for a farmer's market. I knew that a small town like that would have something like that, and I was right. I found their Instagram page, and I sent a message through their Instagram to whoever was controlling their Instagram. I didn't get an answer. They ignored my DM, but I didn't let that discourage me. I went in person to the farmer's market and I asked around, and I found the manager at the time or someone who was part of the board. And I mentioned that I had reached out on Instagram, and they were like, oh, I guess we must have missed it. And then I tried again to message them, and that's when I got the form to apply as a vendor. When I knew that I had to do markets was when I started a soap business, because that is where your target market is going to be.
When did you know to ramp up production to handle a market?
Okay, so when we started that farmer's market, that was our very first farmer's market, that began in March. And remember what we said about March? It's very slow and very tough to sell soap around that time of year. So our soap sales were pretty slow. But once we hit, I think it might have been fall of that first year, we started to get some regular customers coming in. It was nowhere close to what the next year would be, but we did get a lot of interest at the time. And we ramped up. I bought soap molds at that point because I kept having to make more Georgian Bay soap. I kept having to make more bath bombs. So that's when I invested in the bath bomb press. Yeah, all of those things were because of the farmer's market. And you'll see that. So I guess the answer is I knew to ramp up production because a lot of my time was being wasted making stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Because the batches that I was making were too small.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we also had to ramp up production too when we became a bestseller on Etsy.
Oh my
And
gosh,
then
yeah.
a lot of our products were going out
That
the door in the mail, and we needed to ramp it up because we were committed to all of these markets for the upcoming year.
Was that the same year?
That was the year after, the calendar year after, yeah. I'm so tired of social media. My goal this year is to go more local. Best advice for getting out in your area, especially when some of the markets might not be the best or very on brand. I remember this, yeah, there would be different types of markets in the area, and a farmer's market, a certified farmer's market, means that over half of the vendors there are farmers. So that's probably the brand that you're wanting to look for. I think when you're saying on brand,
Handmade, yeah.
making sure that there's not a lot of resellers there. Should I say MLMs?
Yeah, MLMs.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
not.
Yeah,
the
making
same
sure that
brand
there's
as
not
us.
the market is not overcrowded with multi-level marketing brands, things like that. So yeah, going to the market and getting the feel for the culture is very important as well. And sometimes if it's not your local market, you might have to drive half hour or drive an hour. I know we were driving 50 minutes to the furthest one that we went to.
Yeah, it's worth it
Yep.
sometimes. Like I think, the Aurelia one was 40 minutes away.
That earlier was 40 and Wasaga
And
Beach
we
was
did really
50.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, we did really good at the farmers market. I would avoid if the market is not on brand with you, don't do them. It's just
Yep.
going to be a waste of your time. Because I think essentially markets aren't easy. They're physically taxing, and they can be really discouraging when you don't make your money back on your table, or if you don't make many sales at all. It is a slog. It's a physical slog that is an hours long ordeal. So yeah, be smart about the markets you choose, because it's tough if it's not the right fit for your brand or company and you're not making very many sales.
Yep.
So the next couple of questions are about scaling your business. In the early years of soap making, what phases of production did you face, and how did you know how to scale up? For example, we were so focused on making so much product, but didn't have the customer or consumer base to sell it all. Should we scale back our products to maybe 4 to 5 instead of the 13 we have right now? And when would we know to add more products? So I would say, at least for me, what dictates my decisions to scale up is the demand. And if there's no demand, I don't scale. I keep things where they are, and I keep things small for as long as possible. Scaling up is costly. You have to buy more bulk products. It takes up more of your time, and it takes up more of your storage space. So if you don't have to do that, I wouldn't. And I don't understand why more businesses are okay with selling out, because a lot of successful business models out there create that urgency or that desire for their products by selling out. And you can't get that product because it's just so hot. So when you're first starting out and you only make maybe, like I was doing, like 8 bars of soap, it's okay if people snap them up and now you don't have any more, and that's when you should start thinking about buying bigger soap molds. But if you're anything like me and you make 8 bars of soap and it takes half a year to sell those 8 bars of soap, I was not thinking of buying a bigger soap mold at all during that time. For me, the big trigger to scale was when we started doing markets and I was producing all the time. And the tiny batches I was making was just taking up too much of my time. So I scaled up to save my time. Scaling up should be something that you should do to save yourself time, because you're just so stressed out producing so much. Don't put the cart before the horse. Make sure that you have the demand and the sales there before you make that costly decision to invest in equipment, in supplies, in storage space, and time.
How do you decide to use fragrances across your products? It's hard to buy small quantities of fragrance and essential oils and keep your COGS down, but you also get stuck with so much of it left when you're still making small batches.
Yeah, I know the temptation is there when you first start your business to keep your COGS as low as possible, but you have to think about what's worse. Investing in a small amount of fragrance oil and having your COGS be really high, or buying a ton of a fragrance oil at this much cost and not being able to use it in time before it expires, or making so much products with that one fragrance oil that you can't sell them all because you don't have the demand yet. Personally, I think it's way better to invest in small quantities and have higher COGS, and to run a business at little to no profit in the first couple years while you're building that customer base. A lot of businesses do this, actually. They they go into debt, I think restaurants do this where they apply for business loans and they don't expect any profit for years. And when it comes to running a soap business, the version of that is having to invest in stuff like it's a hobby for a while before the sales kick in and you have to make that transition. So at the beginning of a soap company, your COGS will be very high. They will, because it's not practical to be spending all that money on supplies when you don't have that customer base yet. And you'll find that a lot of the time, if you make a ton of product, it just sits because building customer base takes time. So I think when it comes to fragrance oils, how I decided was I bought small amounts in the beginning. Made soaps, tried to sell them. And if there was a consistent demand, then I invested in bigger fragrance oils. If a soap didn't sell, I gave that away and tried something else. Because there's a lot of figuring out in the beginning of a business too. How do you know what a bestseller is going to be until you've been in business for X amount of years? Right? I didn't invest in my fragrance oils that make up our Georgian-based soap until I think it was a couple years in. That's when I started to buy them in 4-liter jugs. Mm-hmm. I would just recommend take it slow, approach it slow, and if you do that, then you're not sinking so much money into a business, and be okay with the fact that you're not making so much profit in the beginning, because that's the majority of us. The next couple of questions are about the legalities, patents, and taxes.
And should we preface this saying that we
Yes.
are not legal experts?
We are not tax professionals, we're not accountants, we're not lawyers. So anything we say in this portion, please talk to a professional in that field, because this is just from our experience and we're speaking from a non-expert point of view. I read soap makers in parts of the UK are required to patent their recipes and that it is expensive. As a resident of Canada, are you required to do so? And if not, have you patented any of your recipes anyway? How expensive is that process there? So this particular question, I can't really speak to because we have not tried to patent anything here in Canada. It's not required to patent our recipes to sell our products here in Canada, and I'm not familiar with the UK process at all. But we did trademark certain words and phrases. We trademarked our business name and our logo, things like that.
Yep.
And we went through a lawyer for that.
Yeah, for all of the trademarks, for the names and everything, for Canada and the United States, the total bill came up to about $20,000.
So it's not cheap.
No.
Next question is, when is it best to register your business? At the very beginning. As soon as you decide that you want to run a business and you've made sure that no other soap business has that name, register. It's not that much, at least in Canada, to register your business.
Yeah, it's not much to do the sole proprietorship. That way you can document your business income versus your personal income.
Yeah, for tax purposes, for sure. It's so important. You have to get a license right away. So in Canada, a license is not required to sell soap. But what you have to do in Canada is to submit your recipes to Health Canada. It's called a Cosmetic Notification Form, a CNF. And there's a lot of information on Health Canada's website on how to do this exact process. And because it's so complicated, they have an entire section on questions you might have and how to do it. I find a lot of people are anxious about this and they're not sure how to do it. From my personal experience, if you just try, they will respond with corrections or suggestions that you need to make to your labels. If the ingredients that you use are not buzz ingredients, I think CBD, that'll have your recipe rejected, I think. But as long as you have quantities in reasonable amounts, you should be approved. It's not really an official approval. It's more like, okay, these are okay, or your labels are okay, kind of thing. It's weird. It's weird. But I should make a video on it sometime. All Health Canada is doing is making sure that you're not selling things with ingredients at dangerous quantities. And that's what we want for our customers, right? We don't want to be selling them things that are dangerous. But it's not as stressful or as complicated as people make it out to be. It's pretty straightforward. But that's what we have to do here in Canada.
Next is going on to soap bath bomb making. Where did you learn the process? I need a soap book for dummies as I haven't a clue where to even start.
So I learned everything I needed to learn from Soap Queen TV's YouTube channel and then her blog, soapqueentv.com, I think, which is now brambleberry.com. There is so much information on her blog, and so many different soap recipes you can try at really small quantities as well. So if you want to make a 2-pound batch of soap, she's got a recipe that you can try there. And it goes through not just the percentages of the oils and butters, but also what properties those oils and butters bring to that bar of soap. And it's not just soap. They have articles on how to make bath bombs, they have articles on how to make lotion and other different types of bath and body products that people in this niche are interested in. So I would definitely start there. Another great resource is Royalty Soaps. They have a whole series on their YouTube channel on how to start. I think you guys are noticing that I'm not mentioning any books. It's because I never learned from a book. I learned everything that I know online, whether it's from these YouTube channels or websites like humblebeeandme.com is a great resource. Modern Soap Making is also a great website, and the Facebook groups as well. There's so much information on there. And I know it's a lot of information, but that's just gonna be how it is. There's so much to learn. So just dive in.
Did you take classes to increase your skills at making soap, bath bombs, etc.?
No. I got the formula from Brambleberry or Soap Queen TV. I bought the ingredients and just followed her instructions.
You just did?
And I went from there.
How do you compensate for the dark green color of hemp seed oil in your soaps? I don't want green or muddy looking colors when I use it, but your recipe is by far the best one we've tried so far. I definitely want to use it, but not a fan of the green tinted soap.
I actually never noticed that the soap is green tinted. If you're noticing a green tint in your soap, you can dial down the amount of hemp seed oil to see if that helps, or you can try using a more refined hemp seed oil, or you can also sub hemp seed oil out completely with avocado oil, sweet almond oil, apricot kernel oil, any light, fast absorbing oil that don't have that like dark green color.
Yeah, percentage wise, there's not a lot in there compared to other oils, so it's surprising that it would turn out green, maybe unrefined, like you said. I've heard that adding citric acid to soap recipes help with soap scum. Have you tried it? And do you have to adjust the lye?
Yes, I have tried it. I've tried it and I now use it for all of my soap recipes because it does make a huge difference in terms of soap scum, but it also makes a big difference in terms of bubbles too. I find that our soaps with citric acid in them are much more bubblier than without. So I use it all the time. And I do adjust the lye because citric acid eats up the lye in soap. And there's a calculation for that. I have details in my Patreon. Yeah, there's a calculation to know exactly how much extra lye you need for the amount of citric acid that you use. I highly recommend it.
Yep.
Yeah, especially if you have hard water, which is what we have here in Calgary.
Have you guys thought about or tried making soap for pets? Dog soap?
We've considered it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
shaking
thought
my
about
head,
it.
no, we haven't yet.
But we've never done it. And I think it's because I'm afraid to mess with dog skin pH. I don't know. I haven't looked into it too much, but I'm nervous because I want the best for my dogs. I don't want to give them soap that'll hurt them. And I know with Dempsey, she's a Basset Hound, so her skin's different from Gibson, who's a Golden Retriever. And yeah, it takes a bit of research. It's on my project to-do list, but haven't cracked that one yet. Haven't tried it yet.
Yep. Do some clays, charcoals, or sea mud make soap softer or cause it to take longer to dry and unmold? Every time I've added a small amount of charcoal or sea mud to my recipes, it stays very soft for about a week. Not the same as with kaolin clay though. Can I mitigate this somehow?
I guess you answered your own question there. If you're finding that the one soap that isn't soft is the kaolin clay, then it's definitely those guys, the sea clay or the sea mud, charcoals, those guys that are causing your soap to be soft. I haven't found my soaps to be soft, so it could be a recipe as well. It could be especially prone to being soft when you change up some additives. So I would recommend that you think about adding more hardening butters or oils to your soap, like maybe add more coconut oil or a higher amount of olive oil or shea butter. I use a lot of shea butter in my soaps, which makes for a really hard bar. But I find when I cut into my soap, no matter if I use kaolin clay, charcoal, or a different kind of clay, it's always the same hardness of bar when I cut it.
How do you keep up with the humidity summertime with bath bombs?
So when we were living in Ontario, that was a huge problem.
Yeah.
And I remember the first summer that I was making bath bombs on a larger scale, I was freaking out because my tried and true recipe that did great over the wintertime was now failing me, and I didn't know why. And once I figured out it was the humidity, I bought not one, but 2 dehumidifiers, and I had them constantly running during that time in the summer because Ontario has such humid summers.
Yep.
And it was literally, as soon as I figured that out, the bath bomb started coming out perfectly. So that is how sensitive bath bombs are to ambient humidity. So if you're experiencing issues with your bath bombs, start there first. Here in Calgary, it is so dry, but it's not dry to the point where it affects my bath bombs too much. If I run a small humidifier near where I'm making bath bombs, that's enough to get great bath bombs. I find that the Calgary climate is perfect for bath bomb making. I've never had more consistently good batches in all of my entire career, and I haven't changed my recipe too much, and I haven't changed my strategy at all since I started making. So your environment is a huge factor. I'm just starting to make bath bombs. How do I portion the ingredients? How much do I use of each to make X amount of bath bombs? So the way I portion ingredients, I've learned over the years is that if you stick to a certain ratio of dry ingredients versus wet, no matter what those wet ingredients are or no matter what those dry ingredients are, you'll always make a great bath bomb. And I've always stuck with like a certain percentage of baking soda to citric acid, and then the dry ingredients are a certain percentage, and then my wet are a certain percentage. And I played around with those ratios, but my current recipe is the best ratio I've seen. I don't know if I'm making sense. How I figured it out is just by doing it. I don't know if there's like a set equation because I don't measure out the bath bomb before I press it. I just fill the bath bomb mold and then I press.
Yeah.
I don't put it on a scale. Although you can. I've seen other bath bomb makers do that, but I need to just get my bath bombs pressed. For my recipe, it makes about 18 bath bombs. Sometimes it makes 17. 17 to 18 bath bombs.
And that's a great recipe. That's on Jerica's Patreon page.
Yeah.
If you want that and you don't want to make 18, you can always cut that in half or quarter that just to see how it is.
Yeah.
As long as your ratios are in line.
It's not like soap. Like you can mess with the amounts. Like you can cut it by a third or half and it'll still be the same outcome.
You could double it. You could quadruple it.
Can you advise on making custom fragrance blends? When I make fragrance blends, a lot of the time I'm inspired by what's already out there, by what other people are doing. When it came to my lavender cedarwood blend, I saw that lavender and sandalwood were popular. And I know that sandalwood is very, very, very expensive and I didn't want to spend that much, but cedarwood was like a really affordable second option. So I put those two together and then I added a citrus in there to balance it all out. Usually when it comes to my blends, I'm looking for a high note, a base note, and a middle note. So I try to have all of those represented. And usually for my base fragrance profiles, it's a small percentage of the whole profile. They're just there to ground the scent. And the majority is usually the high note, the lighter note. And then I have a middle there. A middle that I like to use a lot is lavender because I find that lavender pairs really good with a lot of different scent profiles.
What are your favorite fragrances?
Oh, I love lavender. It's my favorite scent profile. I try to put it in everything that I make. That and citrus scents. So I really like lime. I would make like a pure lemon and lime soap just for me. I should do that. Do you have a favorite?
I like anything woodsy or pine. That's always my desire and my go-to. Yeah. I also like fresh, like open water scent. So the Georgian Bay or the water orchid that I talked about earlier, water themed scents are good.
These next couple of questions are about my YouTube. What kind of content do you post or recommend to post when you're just starting out? I want to start my business, but I'm scared I will run out of content. So when starting out, I highly recommend just doing vlogs of what you're creating. Because I find when it comes to soap making videos, I think most viewers are tired of just sitting down and talking about making soap. They want to know who you are as a soap maker. So the more you involve them with your day-to-day life and the more you weave that topic of soap making with everything else that's going on, the quicker you'll be able to grow an audience that resonates with you. And I think that's the important thing about building a channel is building a community that likes you for you no matter what content you put up there. It's going to be tough at first and it's going to be awkward, but it's like a muscle. You just got to exercise it and you'll get better with time. And don't be scared of running out of content, because as long as you're running your business, there's always going to be something, I think, that you're going to be able to talk about. Even if it's the fact there aren't any sales, like your observations about what's going on, that in itself is really great content that people will relate to and it will resonate with them, because that's what a lot of people are probably going through. The goal should be relatability and being authentic. And that will also set you apart from the other soap tubers out there.
How do you decide who makes which products and who films?
So it's usually me who films. The products that Kale makes, he makes it because he likes to make them and he's good at it. Like there are certain products that are a little challenging, I think, for you, that you're nervous about.
I'm still nervous when it comes to soap. I'm nervous about the process of it solidifying and being able to work efficiently and getting the right swirls in there that Jerica does. She's just amazing at it. So I do things to kind of assist her in the process, like I'll melt down the oils and things like that, but she's really the artist.
I was just wondering about sponsorships and collaborations. Do you reach out to suppliers or do they come to you? So I have never approached a supplier. They've always come to me. And I think that should be the approach you have if that's your goal as well. Just make really good content, be genuinely excited about some of the products that you use, and be authentic when you're recommending them to people. And that will get the company's attention. I was really surprised when I first started out getting reached out to by companies whose products I use all the time. But then I realized that that's the type of promotion that they want. They want people that actually use their products and they're able to represent those products in the products that you make for your company. That's what makes people want to buy from them. So just be authentic and talk about the supplies you're using when you're making your soaps and your bath bombs, and the companies will find you.
Yeah, the companies that we talk about, we really believe in, and they're things that we use. And so we want to stay true to that.
Yeah, there is a lot of things, a lot of opportunities that come through that I don't act on because they don't really apply to what I'm doing and they don't resonate with the audience that I'm trying to attract to my channel. So I have a very small, limited list of companies that I will promote because I believe in them.
Will you ever do again the type of videos where you went over all of the expenses and all of the revenues for that month?
Yes, I want to do that again. Okay. And the reason why I haven't is because I have been nervous about talking about the profitability of what we do and people thinking that that's going to happen for them instantly. I think I want people to understand that it takes time. So I want to build a body of content that speaks to the progression that I've made so that people get the idea that it takes a while. These numbers aren't because we just sprung up out of nowhere. It's from years, literal years of work and years of not making any profits. So I'm waiting for my audience to know me and my company. And that's another thing I want to speak to briefly. When I first started this YouTube, I was being very authentic. I was vlogging a lot more. And then the content changed a little bit. I was more a talking head, speaking facts. And I don't think the audience that I was attracting was really getting to know who I was as a person or my journey. They just saw that number. And so I was getting a lot of inquiries about, I want to start this business, even though they hadn't made a single bar of soap, even though they hadn't made any bath bombs. So I'm being very careful with that. But I will. That content will come out soon, I promise.
Also, could you possibly do a video on ways to use soap stamps?
Yeah, that's actually something that I want to do for our company down the line. Imagine our soaps with little bears on them.
Yeah.
With our logo. I think that would look so cute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little bear holding a soap.
Yeah.
On a soap.
Something that I want to do down the line when we event in person is sell soaps naked. Like anything.
Yep.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
A lot of soap makers do that here in Alberta.
Yeah. Would you ever consider filming step-by-step on a basic recipe, even if it was at a fee?
I've already done that, but I think it's time to make an updated version of that. So yes. And I probably won't ask for a fee for that kind of content. That's stuff that I would just make a video on regardless. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Coming soon. I would like to know more about running a business, how to get sales, social media. What aspects of running a business is part of your Patreon? It's a part of it, but not a big part of it, to be honest with you. And the reason is because for the month of December, I was focusing on Vlogmas, and I wasn't able to put in that kind of content as much as I usually do. But occasionally I will post on COGS, things like that. But I do plan on having more soap business content in the Patreon in the future. So that's something that will be a part of it, more so than it has been. So we've come to the end of the video and we are gonna go into personal questions. So if you're just interested in soap business and soap making stuff, you can click off right here. But if you wanna get to know us better, stick around. So Jerica, when is your birthday? May 3rd? Can you show us your makeup routine? Sure, I will post a video on that down the line. Soon, very soon. Stay tuned.
What do you use as a makeup remover?
I use this face wash to remove my makeup, and then I use this face wash for like as a secondary thing. But I don't really use makeup remover. What do you use as a makeup remover, Kale?
Water.
What's your favorite thing that's happened this year? Moving to this house, I think, has been my favorite thing this year. Moving into a larger space has helped me so much mentally, and my business also, being able to organize things better in the soap studio. If you think that moving to a new space isn't attainable for you, I would say save your pennies and work towards that goal. I know that's what we did. We've always been saving a lot in order to get to where we are at. We've had a lot of sacrifice, and it's been worth it in the end. So that's been the biggest part, is being able to live in this house. Does Kale have a different job of his own? If not, then did he quit to go full-time with you? How did you convince him to help?
Right now, I do not have a job of my own. I'm working for Quench Bear full time. We did allude to the end of summer and fall when things were a little bit slow. There was things going on in the world, inflation. There were things going on in the world. There was economic uncertainty, a lot of unknown. So I did get a job, and I had that for a couple months and worked that through the fall. But I'm currently not working. I'm back to the business full time.
We got busy again.
Yeah.
And I had to ask him to come back. I had to rehire him. I don't think it takes very much convincing to get Kale to help. I think he really likes being a part of this business. Although you also like having your own thing, I think you love our customers a lot.
Yeah.
And you like to be able to connect with them through the markets, and also when you package their orders and communicating with them via email. Kale loves that part of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't much convincing, I would say. Even going back to when I quit full-time jobs originally to come work for the business. Yeah, there was a lot of face-to-face customer interaction. There was a lot of selling in person, which I do enjoy.
Jerica, have you ever thought about creating a YouTube channel for your hair and makeup routine? No. I don't think I would have enough content to have a full channel on my makeup and hair. I think one content shift that we're going to try in 2023 is to have a more vlog style type of content where we still talk about my soap business, soap making, bath bomb making, but integrate more of our day-to-day life in that, so that you can get that type of information if you watch us. Makeup routine might be a part of me giving tips on something, or my hair routine, how I do my hair will be a part of another video, but I'm still keeping it soap business and soap making centric.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, it's fun to get to know the people that you're watching. It's not all about soap making sometimes, and sometimes it's not all about soap business. I'd rather when people choose to spend their time with us on this channel, I want it to be a space that they enjoy, watching people that they like and people that they can chill with, no matter what they're talking about. What kind of lashes do you use? I love them. I have a link to them down below, but I get them from Amazon, and I highly recommend them because they are so cheap.
Mine are natural.
Kale has natural lashes. Did you and Kale ever disagree on business decisions and development? And if so, how did you guys resolve the disagreement? Yes. All the time we disagree on things. And it's good to have that dynamic. You don't want to be an echo chamber if you're the soap business owner and you have another person working with you. You want to be able to get feedback from them. And that's what I do. I do bounce ideas off of you all the time. Sometimes you agree with it, sometimes you don't. But it's always a discussion. And we weigh the pros and cons of each decision. It's important though to have that person who is the final decision though, which is what a CEO of a company would be, or someone who's in the leadership position. It would ultimately fall back on them.
Which is what you are.
And that's me in this company. So a lot of the times I will ask Kale for his opinion and input, but because of my skill set and my experience, I ultimately make the decisions. I know it sounds like a dictatorship, but we just run this company as efficiently as possible, and sometimes that means someone makes a decision.
If there is a disagreement, Jerka has a lot of expertise and experience. So I just try to inquire and ask questions as to why, where you are coming from. And then a lot of times it's something after explanation. Maybe it can be over the course of a day or days or weeks.
Yeah.
Eventually I kind of start to see it how you do as well, and how that would be the better way to go. So
Yeah, it's always important to be able to be open to hearing the opinions of others and the feedback from others, and basing your decision on that as well as your own.
and why they are feeling that way, or
Yeah.
why that is where they stand on something.
Are you and Kale planning on starting a family? Kale and I have tried to have children at some point, and it didn't turn out. It wasn't in the plans. And as the years have gone by, Kale and I have decided that we weren't going to pursue it as aggressively as we were when we were younger. We've kind of come to the conclusion that it might not be in the cards for us, and we're okay with that.
We are aware of different things that you can do to try and increase your chances. And if it happens someday, okay, great. But we are happy with one another. We're happy with our relationship. Our lives are filled with love from each other and from several nieces and nephews and many friends.
And a lot of fur babies.
Yep, and fur babies and the family that we have.
How did you and Kale meet? We met in South Korea in 2009. So when I first got there, I was hired by a company, and I was the only non-Korean teacher there. And my boss came up to me one time and he told me that I looked sad and asked me whether or not I wanted to make friends. And I said, sure. And so he connected me with another English teacher at another school, and her name was Rachel, and she was from Tennessee. And she told me about like a foreign teacher meetup that happened every, was it Thursday?
Yep.
And she asked me if I wanted to go with her so that I could meet more foreigners. And I agreed. So on the night that was supposed to happen, she texted me and said she was really sick and she wasn't going to go, but she said I could still go, and she gave me the address, so if I wanted to, I still could. And I decided to. I decided to take a risk and do it. So I jumped on a bus and I got down to the place where this event was being held at. Kale was the first person that I saw. You were so tall and
Long flowing hair.
yeah.
And my motorcycle helmet with me.
Yeah, and that event was actually where I also met Jenny, who I keep mentioning all the time. We actually also met in Korea. Her husband Ian taught in Korea as well, but we didn't meet him until much later on.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of connections we've made through Korea.
Yeah. But for those of you that maybe just started watching us, I'm from the US originally.
Yes.
Jerka's from Canada.
Yeah.
We met and started dating overseas. Eventually we moved back over, did long distance, and then I moved to Canada.
Yeah, we got married and I brought him over.
Yep.
Is it hard working and being with each other all the time? Yeah, it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough. I can be a lot to be around all the time. I think most human beings are a lot. So we do, on purpose, separate so that we can have our alone times a lot of the time. Kale drops off packages, he'll do that on his own. Or if he wants to go and watch football on his own, he'll go and do that. If I want to go and have drinks with my friend alone, I will do that. I think it's so important if you're working with your spouse to have that space, because if you are around each other all the time, tensions can definitely rise up and it can get pretty stressful.
When it comes specifically to work, having the studio downstairs where I'm making something and then our other kind of business area is the office way upstairs, having that separation where when we were both working on the business before, it was all in the same room. So.
Yeah, our smaller house in Midland, oh my gosh,
Yep.
so hard to work with each other.
Yep.
Like a lot of fights, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. It's not easy, and even now we still bicker and we still tell each other, I need some alone time, blow off steam. But that's normal. Honestly, like I don't want to make it seem like it's all rainbows and roses, but at the end of the day, I couldn't do it without him. If you're thinking about starting a business with your spouse, it's going to be hard. You just got to be realistic about it. And know that if you are watching a spouse team that runs a business, they're probably bickering too behind the scenes. It's hard.
What's the key to your successful husband and wife business duo?
Honesty. You got to be honest. You got to be able to talk to each other about what's bothering you, and also be active in how to resolve that. It can't just be, I don't like that you do this. It needs to be, this is happening. How can we work around this? Because we've had a lot of talks about that. I think it's super important as well to have not a husband and wife dynamic, but to have an established leader. Someone needs to be the go-to guy to make the decision, to be the one that you refer to if you're not sure about what you're doing. There has to be someone leading the team, because if it's just husband and wife and you don't want to, step around their feelings, that can lead to a lot of miscommunication. So make it clear that you got to communicate with each other no matter what. If you make a mistake, communicate with each other. If you don't like how something is being done, communicate with each other. Approach it the way any business would approach an issue. Be honest about it. This is not how it's supposed to be. Let's figure out how to make it better together. And even like being honest about your abilities. Because if you think that you can do it all, you're gonna set yourself up for failure. Or if you think that you are able to do something that you're not great in and you don't ask enough questions, that's gonna set you up for failure. So honesty and being realistic about the team and the people that you've got.
What made you guys choose Canada as your home over the US?
So
this goes all the way back to dating and getting married and filing for visas. Yeah. 10 years ago. Yeah.
At the time, we basically chose it on who was earning more and who could support the other spouse better in their early months.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was me. So that was basically it. That was the decision.
Yep. Why did you move to Alberta from Ontario?
There was a lot of reasons. A big one was the business aspect of it. We were cramped in Ontario. We needed more space. And there was nothing in Ontario that we could buy within our budget that would have given us that. We got our home, our Century home in Ontario before a boom had hit the town of Midland. And by the time we were looking to move, the boom had hit Midland, and everything was so expensive at that point and way beyond what we could afford. So we looked at other cities in Canada that we could buy more space and also be able to run our business better. Alberta had Calgary in it, and that was a huge selling point for me. We could get Morehouse with a soap studio in the basement at a price point that we could afford. And it was also a part of a big city, so you would have all those big city amenities.
And being from the US, being from the Western US originally, a big motivation was being closer to where my family is. I'm from the Seattle area originally. Calgary is a 1 day's drive. It's a long day's drive, so it is within reach of the West Coast.
Calgary has tons of soap business suppliers as well.
True,
so
yep.
That was a big draw. But that's it. That is our entire Q&A. This is probably going to be an hour-long video, but you know what? That's okay. We're happy to film it for you guys who have followed us on our vlogging journey every day in December. Thank you so much for that. So this is our treat for you. If you have watched to the very end, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Let us know in the comments if you have even more questions or if there is anything that we talked about in this Q&A that surprised you, that you didn't expect from us. We mentioned our Patreon. A lot of our recipes are on there. So if you wanted to make stuff the way we make stuff in our business, you can go head over there and check out a ton of recipes, over 80 of them. And speaking of our Patreon, thank you to our patrons. You are so, so appreciated, especially our Bubble BFFs. We're both wearing dark shirts, so it can go either way. Especially our Bubble BFFs. Thank you guys so, so much. You guys are so appreciated. We love you so much. Thank you. And that's it. Happy New Year's. We wish you guys prosperity in all of your endeavors. And we're hoping for amazing things, not just for us, but for you guys. Get excited for better content.
Yep.
Better content and more business related and soap making related content from us in the new year. And thank you for coming along for the ride.
Yep. Thank you for a great 2022.
Yep.
And Happy New Year to everybody in 2023.
Exactly. Bye, guys.
Let's go to this murder mystery.
We have to eat, though.